Hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. Also, thanks for coming. And it's great to see also familiar faces being in this community and ecosystem for almost a decade. It's a great honor. And now I think it's the right time to talk about how we can bring on-chain finance to the masses. So we all know that the traditional financial system is broken, corrupt, and inefficient. And blockchain, decentralized finance, is a better alternative. So imagine, for example, your parents being able to easily invest in tokenized farmland, or your barber accepting on-chain payments, but without all the complexity around crypto-native wallets, private keys, gas fees, or reserves and trust lines when it comes to XRPL. So all these add friction to this DeFi ecosystem, and I think we must find a way how we can remove that friction. So the XRP Ledger is built for on-chain finance, and I think most people in this room know that it is the OG DeFi chain. It was the first blockchain to have a DEX, the first blockchain to allow for tokenization of assets, and have advanced payment features. So from this event, I think, and the recent developments, we know that the future of finance is on-chain, and that most financial assets will eventually be tokenized and represented on blockchains. So when it comes to comparing XRPL to other chains, most of the other chains rely on smart contracts, which are powerful but also risky. With one exploit, your funds are gone, or with one wrong approval on your wallet, your account is drained. But XRPL skips that. Every feature is built into the layer 1, so there aren't these smart contract risks, and everything is aggregated in terms of liquidity. There's just one protocol built into the layer 1, and it's also very practical and useful both for the users and developers to build on. What's missing is real consumer apps that are targeted to the everyday person that can actually hide all this complexity around blockchain technology. And we know Ripple is talking about institutional on-chain finance, which is great and necessary, but I also think consumer on-chain finance is equally, if not more important, for mass adoption. So we know that DeFi is better, but the unfortunate reality is that it's still massively complicated for most people. And starting from wallets, countless of options. We often need different wallets for different chains, different ecosystems, even different apps within the same chain, which is confusing for most people. Private keys and private key management, very scary even for the crypto natives. And I don't think the masses will want to deal with this stuff. So that's why the newcomers, if they haven't run away already, they decide to mostly stick with centralized exchanges and give up custody, which is simpler. On-off ramps, still inefficient, still expensive. Gas fees, OK, thankfully on XRPL we don't have that issue. But the ideal scenario is where the end user doesn't even need to know there is gas fees to be paid for every action or every tab you need to do on an app. Bridging and tokens, still complicated, still done manually by the user. And we have this mess where you have the same exact token represented in multiple different forms where even crypto natives confused many times. So this is the current state of crypto. It's a mess, and it's not built for the average person. So now we have the opportunity where XRPL can power a global on-chain economy. And I'm personally very excited about a few amendments that can remove most of this friction that we just talked about. So batch transactions and the sponsored fees, for example, can remove the friction around, for example, when you create an XRPL account, you need to fund it with XRP to activate it, which is the base reserve. Then for every single XRPL token you need to hold, you need to add the trust line plus the reserve. And of course, the transaction fees. But if you want to target the everyday person, this doesn't work. So with these two amendments, you basically remove all these things. And it should be in the responsibility of the project, of the app, to hide all this for the user. Then we have credentials, of course, and the IDs, which they are great for seamless KYC processes. And then we have some great amendments coming that can enable some extra capabilities and use cases for on-chain finance, like multi-purpose tokens for real-world assets, token escrows, where you can lock all XRPL tokens instead of just XRP as it is now, and lending, of course, which is a core and necessary DeFi feature. And here are a few more ideas on how we can simplify the user experience for most people. So everything begins with a wallet. So if we can make it as simple as possible for users to start in this industry, I think we have solved the biggest problem. So lately, we're seeing social logins, for example, being used more and more, which are a great solution. Combined with the MPC technology, basically, you don't need the private key management. You just, connect with your social login, and you have your blockchain account in a few seconds. And I believe the next evolution is passkeys, which is not that widely used yet in the crypto industry, but it's all over the big tech already. So Google, Apple, Microsoft, they're already using passkeys, which are much more powerful for authentication. And basically, you can sign up in a few seconds, and they are much more secure and at the same time very user-friendly by using your biometrics to connect to different apps. Then the next step is bridging, where basically it should be invisible to the end user. So again, the projects and apps' responsibility to hide this for the users. For example, you want to do some DeFi interactions where some liquidity needs to be sourced from other chains. That doesn't need to be done by the user manually, which is very complex and confusing. It can be done on the background, covered by the app, by the project itself. Then we have on-off ramps, where they still have high fees, 3 to 5% on average, which is very high. So we need to increase this competition, lower the fees, and of course, when it comes to KYC, instead of having to sign up and do KYC every single time you choose a different provider, we now have the chance with credentials, for example, on XRPL, where you KYC once on your XRPL account, and then you don't need to do that ever again. You just use any service you want. And then there's AI, of course, which I believe eventually most people will be interacting with AI instead of the apps. You will not need to know how every app works, like try to find all the different functionalities. Just tell your AI agent to do it. I think this is where we are heading. And these are just a few ideas on how we can improve the user experience, how we can remove most of the friction that exists currently in this space. And I want to end this session with 2 messages. The first message is to the builders, founders, developers who are here. I want to say that we need to really actually start building for the masses, for the everyday person out there, not for the crypto crowd, because unfortunately, most projects right now are still building for crypto users. So the same problems, the same friction gets repeated. Also, I think many of the founders have a certain idea, a certain vision. They want to do their things their own way. And that doesn't always work. And unfortunately, most keep going out of ego, ignoring their users, ignoring their community, which ultimately I think it's bad, because in the end of the day, you're building for the community. And you want to build products that people actually want and are asking for, not what you think they might want to use. And my last message is to the users, the community. Please start providing more feedback, even if you think that these developers, these projects will not hear you. I think it's very important. At least at Anodos, we heavily rely on community's feedback, because we are building for the community. And providing feedback, either that's negative, positive, whatever it is, I think it matters a lot. So tell these projects how they can improve your experience, what new features you want. Just start putting on social media, on X, wherever you want, or even privately, start putting out what you want to see. I think it's very important. And start exploring what's there in the ecosystem. There are many apps, many unexplored apps that don't have the awareness. But even if you think like these apps are not that good, they will still benefit by you giving them this feedback and telling them where they need to improve. So yeah, ultimately, it's also up to the users to give that feedback so everyone can improve in this industry. So in the end, I think this is how we reach mass adoption, and it's all together. Thank you.